Hey everybody, welcome to the Selling North Georgia podcast. I'm Corey Shields.
I'm Michael Williams.
And today we are here with Brian Branam of Liberty Baptist Church. Brian, thank you for being here with us today.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity.
So what does your role look like as the pastor over at Liberty Baptist?
So as a lead pastor, it's obviously preaching is a big part of that and teaching, but a lot of it is shaping vision, knowing the community, understanding how we connect with the people around us. So, it's kind of a managing of all the ministries and seeing how they all fit together.
What does it mean exactly to be a Christ follower?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you would use that term, Christ follower, because that's one that, and it's kind of it's a word that morphs and changes. The Bible used the word Christian, which was a derogatory term. People were using the word Christian to describe someone who acted and lived like Christ as a way to they're an outcast of society. Well, we kind of adopted that term, but in our nation, a lot of people would say the word Christian, but really didn't live anything like Christ. And so then people started calling us believers, because the word believe is so many times in the Bible. But the word that you translate from Greek to English, believe, doesn't quite capture what it really means to believe in Christ, because we talk about believing in Santa Claus, we talk about believing in love. I mean, believe is a word that you use in a country song. It's just it's a very shallow word, and the more it's used, the less meaningful it becomes. And so, when we talk about people believing in Christ, it doesn't just mean that you mentally agree with the things that he teaches. So Christ follower is a really interesting way of phrasing that, because when Jesus called people to believe in him, he actually looked at them and said, follow me. And so it means to become a disciple, that for the rest of my life, I'm going to attach myself to the teachings of Christ. And in the way that I live my life, the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis, no matter what my job is or what life looks like, I'm trying to conform to who Christ is. I want to become more and more like him. That's what Christ follower means.
So with Liberty Baptist specifically, what does that mission look like? And you can answer it as far as the church mission or your personal mission, or maybe they are the same thing.
Yeah, so the way we articulate our mission is we say we do three things. We rescue people, we show them what we do, and we send them out to do what we do. And that it comes from a passage in the Bible where Jesus talked about what he wanted his followers to do. He wanted us to spread his teachings, to help people to obey the commands that he gave us, and to attach them to his name through baptism and salvation. And so that idea of rescue is, obviously we believe the Bible teaches that if people don't follow Christ, they're in danger. And so it's the same idea that if you were out in the ocean and you couldn't make it back to shore and you're getting swept away by a current, man, we feel like we're bringing a message into our world that is literally saving lives. So rescue people, show them what we do. That's the following part. How do you become a disciple? What does life look like now that you don't just agree with Jesus, but you're actually trying to follow him? You're trying to live out those teachings, and then send them out to do what we do. We have a very aggressive mission of propagating what we do at Liberty. That's why we have 3 sites where we do that, and you talk about property and different things. I know this is a podcast about property, but the reality is not only do communities change, but the landscape of Christianity in America is changing. There's a lot of churches closing. The congregations are diminishing. And one of the things that we want to do is to take a group of people who follow the teachings of Christ, who have learned a great way to connect that into a community, and to reopen those closing churches. So, we hope to go into a lot of little pockets in Northwest Georgia where a congregation may be dying out, and instead of allowing that building to close and sit vacant or to become something else, man, we'd like to repopulate a congregation there, which is exactly what we've done at Liberty Fort Oglethorpe, which is one of our campuses.
Yeah, you talked about Fort Oglethorpe and rescuing people. That's a great story. We now have what we call the rescue minister, right? Tell us a little bit more about Scott Young and his new position, and that. To me, that is a story of exactly what Liberty's mission is.
Scott Young is I mean, he really is the poster child of Liberty Baptist Church, of what we're about. He, to give his story in short form, he was burned over 60% of his body in a meth explosion. He's making meth and it explodes on him, and he wasn't supposed to live. And so he had people at Liberty in a Sunday school class who were praying for his life, and just through a lot of different circumstances, he survived it. After he got out of there, Liberty began to minister to him. He came to a program that we have called Celebrate Recovery. It really changed his life. He became a leader in Celebrate Recovery. The time span of this is about over the last 7 years. And this week, actually, Scott started on our church staff of helping to take that message of rescue out into our community, because, man, he embodies it. I mean, he has experienced it, what we do in rescue ministry. So, yeah, he's leading our Celebrate Recovery. He's helping to connect us to people in our community who are in danger, who are in need. And we think that position is really going to help leverage Liberty to become even more of a blessing to the community that we're in.
Can you say a little bit more about the Celebrate Recovery?
Yeah, so Celebrate Recovery is a ministry that we have for people with hurts, habits, and hang-ups, and that is 100% of the population, right? So
sure.
A lot of people, if they know anything about Celebrate Recovery, they think of it as a chemical dependency, drugs, and alcohol program. What a lot of people don't realize is that only about 30% of people who attend Celebrate Recovery come for chemical addiction.
Wow, 30%. I thought it was so much more than that. And I actually go there and have been to Celebrate and participating in all kinds of things at the church. And I literally thought it was going to be the other way, at least 70%. That's crazy.
It's, we have people there, they've lost a spouse. Maybe it's people going through depression. Maybe it's people that are just in a point of life, I don't know what to do with myself, It could be people who've gone through tragedy, trauma. We have a chemical dependency group that meets every Thursday night, but we also have an emotional support group, and it could be a lot of different things. They're in that. I'll tell you a great story about a lady named Linda Jackson, who was one of our first leaders in Celebrate Recovery. She was there because she had lost her husband about 3 years before that, and she just couldn't come out of the fog of that situation. And she became one of our leaders in Celebrate Recovery. She worked the program. She is now happily married again and living in Florida, where a lot of us would probably like to have a place, right? So I still keep contact with her, and she is back in that happy place in her life again. And that's really what Celebrate Recovery is about, of just helping people. I express it like this: people who feel like they've lost everything in life, and helping them to become leaders again and influencers, not just in their family, but in their community or in their job. And we've seen a lot of people put their lives back together through Celebrate Recovery.
Right, yeah. Just a matter of taking control when you feel like you have none at all.
It's just giving you the tools, a plan to work. And I say all the time, especially about our men's ministry, people need three things to look forward to, three things in their life. One, they need something to look forward to. They need a group of people to hang out with that they can talk to, and they need something they feel like they can invest their life meaningfully in. That's what Celebrate Recovery does, and I think it has a 12-step to it, and I think it just helps people step by step begin to put life back together again.
Something that Michael and I, and the rest of our team for that matter, encounter quite a bit is folks moving to the Dalton area, relocating from other states, whatnot. And we often get asked for recommendations for, local church, if we go to one or have any preferences. And, as anybody who lives here knows, you walk down the street, you got plenty of options.
Yeah.
What would you say, to someone who is on the fence, maybe debating, between a few different options? Why Liberty Baptist? What do you guys have going on that you feel like separates you from the rest?
Yeah, so I would say two interesting things to that question. One is there is a church right across the street from Liberty Baptist Church in two different places. There are two churches across the street from our Fort Oglethorpe campus, and there's a church across the street from our Highway 76 campus. The other thing that I would say to that is I do understand what it is to be new and to be searching. I grew up in Ringgold, which is one of the communities in Northwest Georgia. My family, my extended family, is from Whitfield and Murray County, from Dalton and Chatsworth. So, as a kid growing up, I knew this area, but I'd been away for 15 years. I was in Birmingham, Alabama when we got the call to come back here. And so I understand what it's like to be new and to try to figure out how to get your feet back up under you. You're trying to find a school. You're getting used to a new job. You're acclimating your children. I've been sitting in the front seat of my car with my kids at swim practice with them crying, not wanting to go in there, saying, this is not my team. And I get the pain of that. And one of the hardest things to do, especially, when you're coming into a church, one of the hardest things to do is to be new. And I think one of the things that people love about Liberty is it's so welcoming. And I know a lot of people would say, well, gosh, all the churches are friendly. And I think, probably so. All the churches are friendly in this area, but there's just, if I wasn't the pastor of Liberty, it's the church I would go to. It's the people there just love you. Yeah. And it's very authentic. It's very welcoming. Another reason that I would say to come to Liberty is because I know, and gosh, let's just talk about an uncomfortable subject here for a minute. One of the criticisms about churches is, what do y'all do with all that money? Hey, you're always asking for money, and we do. I mean, every Sunday we talk about giving. That's a part of our faith. But we are a church that takes $40,000 a year and puts it right back in this community through missions. We are, if you want to give into the missions organizations of this community, Liberty Baptist Church is a place where you can give your money every week, and it goes right back into many of the missions partners that you see. Center for Hope, the Women's Enrichment Center. We are partners with Providence. I mean, there's so many different things that we give into in the community. We put about $85,000 a year into children and teenagers. We believe in giving your kids a great experience in their formative years of having to deal with, all the sports and pressures of school and all the things that they've got going on. We realize that a person is not just intellectual, a person is not just emotional, but and not just biological. God created you spiritual. And so we really believe in investing in our children and giving them ministries where they can get to know God. When you're serving at Liberty and when you're giving at Liberty, it is really giving you something back that you are investing in that's reciprocating all out into our community.
One of the things that I noticed when I was on the personnel committee a few years ago is that we were looking to hire more than one position, and I just kept running into the fact that when I would look at salary requirements and like salary expectations for those positions, it's so much higher than what we were able to afford. And I'm like, what is that? Like, why are our salaries so much lower? And I started looking around, I'm like, well, we've got a Spring Place campus that we spend a lot of money on. We have children's ministry that we spend a lot of money on. We've got Celebrate. We've got a men's group. Like, there's just so many mission type things that we do there.
I've got to tell this on Michael. So when he comes on the personnel committee and he gets to see kind of the behind the scenes of the stuff, he goes, hey, I can tell you what the problem is of Liberty Baptist Church. I said, what is it? He said, we give too much.
That is literally what I said. I'm like, look, we have too much stuff that we do. We need to stop all that and actually pay for these people to be here. Yeah, we care too much and we give too much. That is literally what my thought was when I came on, and now all of a sudden it's my responsibility to hire people in the church. I'm like, we don't have any money. We don't pay enough. Yeah. So I'm constantly going back to the finance committee. I'm like, can we pay them more? Can we pay them more? Yeah. So anyway, I'm blown away at how giving Liberty Baptist is.
So when we are talking about giving, what's some recent sort of projects or events that you've had that you felt really good about, that were very successful, and what sort of plans in that regard do you have in the near or distant future?
Yeah, so we do once a month a feeding program. It's called Hope for the Hungry. The first Wednesday of every month, a person can come by, get a box of food that'll last them for several days, depending on the size of the family. There's no strings attached to that. Hey, you have need, you need some food, here it is. Our Spring Place campus is a very unique situation there. I would describe it as a mission trip without an airplane. A lot of people that come to church, hey, I'd like to go internationally and do a mission project. if you want a Central American, South American experience, our Spring Place campus is the place for you, man. It's an amazing place. It's bilingual, and we're doing some incredible things out there. We do. It's a community full of kids, and one of the things I love most about our Spring Place campus is a lot of those kids don't have computers, they don't have cable, and they don't have phones. They come out and play with you like you were when I was a kid. Yeah. They want to do stuff. So we do sports camps out there. We do summer programs out there. We do educational programs out there. We've done tutoring programs there. We have actually had some of the leaders from Murray County come to us and say, hey, the crime has gone down in this segment of this neighborhood. The kids are more engaged in school than they used to be. What are y'all doing? And so we've established some very good community partners that a couple of times a year will use our Spring Place campus, and all sorts of resource ministries will come together and help to distribute goods to the people, and some real great life skills things that are going on there. Celebrate Recovery that I named is one of the great projects that we do. But then you and I were talking before we came together, but we actually have some people involved with some of the sports teams also in the area. Just to be there for the kids, be there for the athletes, be there for the families, to help them, whether we have hauled football equipment to away games for some of the schools in the area. We've fed the teams. We've helped the bands. A lot of different things that Liberty does like that. We are very engaged in the community, and we believe, hey, the mission of Christ is global, but we believe it has to start very local and it has to be very strong. There shouldn't be anything we do around the world that we're not already proficient in right here, and that's what we're trying to do.
All right, so Brian, I know that a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to go to church on Easter, or I'm going to go to church on Christmas, and I check my little box that, yep, I've gone to church this year. So what are some of those special days throughout the year, or some of the special events that Liberty does throughout the year that people could come to and attend?
Liberty's one of my favorite places to be at Christmas. We decorate it in a really beautiful way. Our goal is that when people walk into the campus, they are experiencing joy and peace, the things that we proclaim at Christmas about Christ. We have some unique experiences at Christmas time. We have a Chrismon service where a Chrismon is a symbol that is literally a Christ symbol that tells the story of Christmas. We allow the kids to come up and decorate it with the families. It's kind of a really unique Christmas service. We walk through the Advent weeks of walking up toward Christmas. We have a beautiful candlelight Christmas Eve service. Easter's a lot of fun. We do a lot of the things that people are looking for. We do the egg hunts, and we take the pictures, and all the things that Mama wants when she gets all the babies ready to go to church on Easter, right? But it's really helping people to understand the meaning of those seasons. And if you look back in the Bible, one of the things that God did is He didn't just let His people just work all the time. Michael Williams, right? So
Guilty.
Y'all probably need to pay attention to this, right? But he put pauses throughout their years to pull the people away and bring them to Him, and to give them different themes going through the year. And I think we do a great job of that at Liberty, of saying, hey, man, the summer, let's focus on these things during the summer. The fall, let's re-gear, and man, this is a harvest season and a different kind of a season. Let's go into the winter and let's find some rest. Let's find some peace. Let's find some meaning in those seasons. So, we have a calendar that kind of helps people to spiritually work through the year, much like God did in the Bible with His people.
Yeah, it does have a good cadence to it.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like you guys have a lot going on over at Liberty. Sounds like you're very intentional with everything that you do, for sure. So on that note, if anybody watching is interested in what we've been talking about, or if they're just looking for a new place to call home, how can they reach you and get a little more information about Liberty Baptist?
Yeah, so let me give you our website. And everybody, when I say this website, they go, wait a minute, what? And this is it. Liberty Baptist Church, that's the easy part, libertybaptistchurch.ws. And a lot of people go, what? So We tell people that means website. It really means Western Samoa. So we had to have that. So
Easier to remember.
So we could be Liberty Baptist Church somewhere on the internet. We had to be libertybaptistchurch.ws. So
there's more than one Liberty Baptist Church.
There's a lot of them.
I swear, everywhere I go, I see Liberty Baptist Church. I'm like, oh, the sister church over here.
As far as Google goes, Liberty Baptist Church is probably the worst church name ever, right? It's the most indistinct. It's yes, libertybaptistchurch.ws. I also have a website and a kind of a writing ministry. That's something God's given me to do. It's called thecaffeinatedchristian.com. I've published 2 books. I write a blog, do a lot of content, trying to create to help people to be encouraged and to get some biblical content in their life. So those are 2 great ways to do it: libertybaptistchurch.ws and thecaffeinatedchristian.com.
And if you want to keep up with the Braves or the Dogs, he's on Twitter at Brian Branam. you will see some smack talk on Twitter with the Braves and the Dogs.
That's what Twitter's for.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you all for watching the Selling North Georgia podcast. Once again, I'm Corey Shields.
I'm Michael Williams.
And we will see you next time.